came back, and I'm sure winning the butt kiss or being a butt kiss finalist was a goal of yours. What was it like to find out that news today that you're a finalist for that?
I mean, it was cool. It's not like I was running around celebrating. Nothing's been won yet. So it is what it is. It's progress towards one of the goals.
What does it mean to have that type of honor, knowing the history of that award here at this school?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge honor. Obviously, it'll be even a bigger honor if I win, if I have the honor to do that. But until then, I'm just another finalist. It's nothing yet.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here for the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And one final game day preview as Oklahoma heads down to LSU this weekend, 6 o'clock kickoff.
Wow, wait. Last game day preview of the regular season.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's been quite the ride, Eddie.
We've made it. We've made it. I think we've kind of somewhat made it. I don't know. There's been a couple meltdowns in between. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Happy Thanksgiving. This should be out to you on Thursday as we head into a football weekend. I think Thanksgiving and football and family and all that kind of stuff, it really is the best. And, I think it's become a tradition. You get around, you eat, and then you watch the Cowboys get their ass kicked at 3:25.
Yeah, the green bean casserole.
The green bean casserole will be had. Potato casserole as well.
Who's making it this year?
About. I think my mom. I think my mom going to be going over to my aunt and uncles. So nice. You going up to Tulsa?
Yeah, I'll be in Tulsa and celebrating with some family. And my mom makes a great green bean casserole. So
what does Sam Stoya do on Thanksgiving? I could see Thanksgiving being a big day for him.
No,
not at all. Not cooking, not doing anything.
He might help out with the turkey cutting, but
like
he is pretty hands off. He is Mr. Watch football and eat all day.
I like that. I'm going to miss having the Egg Bowl on Thursday. We'll have that tomorrow on Friday as George and I head down to Baton Rouge for the game. Excited about this one. You hear about the legend of Death Valley as we talked about on Tuesday during the practice report. Looking forward to all of it. You heard from Danny Stutsman there. He is a finalist for the Butkus Award. That was announced on Monday. One of 5 finalists. Clemson's Barrett Carter, Ole Miss's Chris Ball Jr., UCLA's Carson Schweitz. How do you even say this?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Swinzinger, and Georgia's John Walker, the finalist. That will be announced on December 10th.
Yes.
The winner of that, obviously, he would become Oklahoma's 4th winner, 5th overall. Brian Bosworth won it twice, 1985, 1986. Rocky Kalmus in 2001, and then also, Teddy Lehman, the great Teddy Lehman, 2003.
Pretty cool. Brent Venables coached 2 of those guys.
It's crazy.
I mean,
I think he might know something about playing linebacker.
Yeah, Carter at Clemson. I know that's a guy that Brent recruited there, and coached him. So pretty cool for Brent to see 2 of his guys make that list. And like you said, I mean, he's regarded as probably the best linebackers coach in the country.
Certainly. We talked about on Tuesday just the turnaround that Oklahoma's had defensively. Obviously, the vibes are pretty good right now.
Yeah,
Oklahoma coming off of a 24-3 victory on Saturday over Alabama. And I think that, one of the things moving into this week is there's obviously some opportunity there. Finished 7-5 during the regular season. Obviously, don't have to be said. Not where anybody wants it around these parts, but it is what it is, and you do have a good chance to go down there and maybe get a win this weekend in Death Valley.
Yeah, I really think that they have a chance in this game, and it's because LSU hasn't been playing great. I still think they're a pretty good football team, solid on both sides of the ball. The defense has been, they're definitely improved from a year ago, but they still have some weaknesses, especially up front. I think Oklahoma's going to be able to run the football. The stat that everybody's been throwing out there is just how bad they've been at defending the quarterback run game.
Sure.
You've seen that issue with, Jalen Milroe, Marcel Reed this season. You wonder, can Jackson Arnold have a big game again with his legs, Xavier Robinson? And then on the other side, LSU's offense has not been the explosive group that I think a lot of people thought they would be. Now, recently, Caden Durham, who Oklahoma fans are very familiar with, Oklahoma recruited him alongside Taylor Tatum a year ago. He started to really come on for LSU in their running game. But Garrett Nussmeier, he's had a solid year. Not great, but can definitely hurt you through the passing game. But I think this is a game, Eddie. I know it's really hard, Death Valley at night. I think this is going to be one of those kind of crazy games to end the season. It's going to be very close, and I think Oklahoma, the way that they played against Alabama, they found a formula for success, a formula for winning. I wonder if they can carry that momentum on the road this week.
As so often with a number of these Oklahoma games this season, it's going to be about protecting the football. Obviously, if Jackson Arnold's going to have the ball in his hands a bit on Saturday night. You can't fumble it. Garrett Nussmeier, on the other hand, he takes some chances. And for an OU defense that's coming off of its best performance of the year, obviously the 3 interceptions, excuse me, he's put the ball in the other team's hands quite a bit this year, 11 interceptions on the year. Maybe that's something that, if you're an Oklahoma defense, you can take advantage of.
Yeah, 13-0 this year, or 13-0 under Brent Venables when they win the turnover margin. So if Oklahoma can do that, then I think they have a chance. And it kind of reminds me a bit of the Auburn game earlier this year heading into it, where we're like, well, Peyton Thorne tends to turn the ball over.
And he didn't until he did.
Exactly. So can Oklahoma replicate that, or replicate what they did to Jaylen Milroe? I think getting pressure on Garrett Nussmeier is going to be pivotal in this game. This offensive line for LSU hasn't had the year that I think a lot of people anticipated, but are still really, really good. One of the better groups that Oklahoma's going to face this season.
Maybe one of the better players that they faced in Will Campbell.
He's been awesome. So, can R. Mason Thomas get some of that pressure that we've seen from him all year? Ethan Downs, those guys, the guys up the middle. I think that's kind of a big matchup in this game, because I do think if they can get pressure, you'll force Garrett Nussmeier into some bad throws.
In terms of just concern level with, you're coming off of a big win. Obviously, it's been well documented, well covered, the field storm and everything that went into Saturday night here in Norman. Any concern about any type of hangover going into this final game?
I think definitely. I know that a lot of people would probably sit here and tell you no, like, and the players certainly are going to be like, oh, we're focused on the next thing. But we've seen this team or this program under Brent not handle success overly well, right? You think back to last year beating Texas, and obviously the season kind of falling apart after that. This year you go and you win an emotional game against Auburn, and you don't bounce back a couple weeks later against Texas, and obviously the season that's ensued. So I am a little bit concerned about that, and I think it's also one of those things where they have this big-time win. The field, is stormed and all of that. The fans are celebrating, and it feels like, okay, we made a bowl game.
Sure.
It's like, well, you still got another game. Yeah. This is a big one. Like, this one can make you feel even better. So I think focusing back in, and I think Brent will do a good job of trying to get this thing back on track. But I do think that there has to be some of that concern of, man, you just won a really emotional game. There's a lot of relief, I think, within the program because of that win. You still got to go on the road and play a really good football team this Saturday.
In a really hostile environment as well. Danny Stutsman, Billy Bowman, Fabechi Wewu talking about kind of the mindset going into Baton Rouge.
It's great. Much needed team win. Obviously morale's very high. Just an electric Saturday. And so, it's kind of refueling the tank.
How do you channel that to, keep it moving forward?
Yeah, we just got to remember, what worked for us. Just keep having that edge, keep fighting.
One of the older guys, you take that upon yourself to make sure, the win doesn't linger. You guys are refocused, ready for the next one.
Yeah. I definitely take that on myself and the other leaders as well to just remain focused. We still got one more game to play. And it's a very important game. So to stay focused, but again, still have fun, enjoy the wins, Don't be too down about it.
I think with the adversity that we faced this year, it kind of helps because we understand that, okay, just this win doesn't change everything. We still have that pain from the past. Of course, you celebrate the win that night, but, next day we were in the meeting room, getting ready for LSU. Like, you're able to move forward because you feel the pain from the past, And just because you get one win against an amazing Alabama team, it doesn't mean that the job is not done. I mean, the job is done. We still got a lot to work on, a lot to improve on.
Don't be fooled. It was freezing when we were talking to Fabechi and Danny and Billy and those guys. We'll hear more from the players here in a second. When you talk about LSU, though, I think that the one thing that any college football fan is kind of aware of, Brian Kelly's program, and there's usually dudes all over the field. You go down to the state of Louisiana, there's a reason that I think the word is creatures that Brent Venables used on Tuesday, but they have lost some, obviously. You lose Malik Neighbors from last year. You lose Brian Thomas Jr. They still have some guys on that side of the ball, as well as the defensive side of the ball, that could cause problems on Saturday.
Well, yeah, Harold Perkins, right? He's a household name in college football. He's been really a menace the last few years. At linebacker, he's going to come after the quarterback. And when you talk about Oklahoma's offensive line issues this year at times and giving up some of those big sacks, you worry about a guy like that. And then on the other side, Caden Durham is really the guy Eddie, for me, that I think could have a big game. You've seen he has that breakaway speed, obviously a really fast guy. I think he was a kind of a track star in high school, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what his allure was for a lot of these schools. So they definitely have a lot of really good players. My question with LSU is just where are they at mentally? Because this was a team that, I think Oklahoma had some high expectations coming into this year, but I think everybody knew their ceiling was probably around 9-3. This LSU team was a team that a lot of people thought maybe could win the SEC championship, obviously make the college football playoff. And they've not met those. And they had a 3-game losing streak. They turn around. They barely beat Vanderbilt at home. And so I wonder where are they at. Brian Kelly's kind of under fire, if you will. I don't think they're going to fire him. His buyout's way too big. But, I do wonder, with this being their senior night, their last home game, where are they at mentally in terms of the way this season has gone?
Well, we're a week removed from talking about OU players playing for the seniors and the emotion that comes with that, right? It's funny you mentioned Harold Perkins. Brian Kelly actually talked about him on Monday at his press conference, undecided what he's going to do in 2025. OU, I guess, not luckily for Harold Perkins, don't have to worry about him this year with the season. What was it? ACL?
He had a season-ending injury?
Yeah, ACL, season-ending ACL injury.
I must have missed that.
UCLA's been out, I think, 4th game of the year.
Well, I just sound like an idiot then.
So, I knew that I wanted to clarify.
You let me just walk all the way through that.
I didn't want to call you out just right there.
I didn't realize it was season ending, I guess.
Yeah, he's been out for a while now. But Brent Venables on Tuesday did talk about LSU and the Bayou Bengals going into Saturday.
Got a great opponent in LSU. I think they've won maybe 21 of their last 22 home night games, and have been fantastic, and a really talented football team that I think leads the SEC in least amount of sacks given up, and have some fantastic wide receivers, maybe the league's best tight end, and really just Garrett Nussmeier is a fantastic player. I think they have 7 games where he's thrown for 300-plus yards and 2 games where he's thrown for 400-plus yards. So going to be a different type of challenge this week. Brian Kelly is a proven winner. It's a very well-coached football team. They're a really aggressive defense. They've recruited really well over the last several years there. I think they're second in the SEC in time of possession. They've had excellent game control, and they've lost to some really good teams, and then lost to Florida in a game they dominated from a game control standpoint. I think they had 90-plus plays in that game offensively, and Florida only had 53 plays total in the game. But I think Florida beat them in the big play category, which was huge. It was, and then LSU got into the red zone several times and came away with no points, and recipe for losing, and as we know, but a team that leads the SEC, one of the best in college football. I think 5th nationally on third downs offensively. They're averaging 50% conversion rate on third down, which is just outstanding. So
certainly, going into Saturday night, we're going to talk about Oklahoma offensively and the things that they need to do. They're coming off of maybe they found something, and I think that this is the moment where we go, yeah, we have not been very complimentary of the Oklahoma offensive line over the course of, I guess, 10 weeks, basically the entire season. It's been a struggle. I think everybody knows that. But over the last 4 games, maybe they have found something. Just 112 yards per game over the first 7 contests. Over these last 4 games, George, they've gone for 226.8, which is obviously drastically better than what they had put out. It helps with the 257-yard performance against Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a lot better up front in that category. They're getting a push up front. You're seeing that left side, especially Logan Howell and Heath Ozida, really start to develop. I think that they have a better understanding of the playbook. I think they have a better understanding of using their leverage and their strength and everything that comes with that. And they're only going to get better. So you have this hope that, guys like that, they're going to be back next year. Fabechi Wiwu is going to be back next year. Troy Everett, I think, is really starting to find his groove at center. So you're looking at that offensive line, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, there's some real potential there. But yeah, they've really found something in the run game. I think a large part of it is just executing. You know, I think that they have decent talent there. It's just been a matter of executing at a high level. And I think you're starting to see those guys, even as Spencer Brown, who we talked to on Monday night. You know, I think that he is really playing, you know, better football. I mean, the bar was low, right? But I do think that he has started to kind of figure it out, and we'll see. I think he'll probably be the guy at right tackle this week. I don't know what Michael Tarquin's status is going to be, but yeah, you have to like where the offensive line, and part of it too, Eddie's. It's been the same five now for the last few weeks.
Yeah,
and I think that has I think that has a large part to do with it.
No doubt about it. Maybe most importantly, the sack numbers have gone down drastically over the last 4 games. OU's given up, or last 3 games, excuse me. OU has given up just 4 sacks, which they were giving up that in a series, right, to end the the Ole Miss game. 18 sacks between the South Carolina and Ole Miss game. So certainly it's been better. We talked to Fabechi Wewu as well as Spencer Brown on Tuesday following practice.
I mean, it's just a standard. You know what I mean? It's been a long time coming. We've been grinding for the last few weeks. And the work finally showed, and the work showed on Saturday night.
You mentioned it's a long time coming. What was maybe different on Saturday in terms of helping you guys as an offense, in particular, run the ball?
I mean, everything just came together. We've been working. We're not really worried about what nobody say on the outside. We just been keeping the main thing, and just doing what we coached to do. You know what I mean? Executing at a higher level and playing for one another and playing for the coaches and the fans and everybody.
You know, I don't think anything changed per se. I think if you go back and watch the film, you could tell that each game, you know, we kept improving, and you know, we kept our head down. You know, like we were saying in the beginning of the season, we knew it was going to take a lot of work, you know, to get to a point where we would feel, you know, as like an elite offensive line. And I still don't think that we're out there. I still think that there's, you know, a lot of things we can work on. But you know, Saturday, of course, it felt amazing. So, you know, it was a good step forward. But you know, it's not done.
What have you seen from a couple of the young guys like Keith and Logan, guys who have been thrust into pretty big roles? Just how have you seen them grow?
They've been growing. They've been getting good, better and better each week, getting coached up and listening to coaching. And I'm just excited to see what they do in the future. But I mean, where they started from in the spring till now, I mean, they've been playing better and better, and they've been getting more confident. So, I mean, they've been doing a really good job.
You know, I think we are building one. You know, I can't say, you know, what everybody thinks, but I think that, you know, our offense should be good at everything. I mean, not good at everything, but I think our offense should be well-rounded all around. You know, so yeah, we were good at running the ball, but there's always something to improve on. You know, you can never be too good at everything. You know.
Perhaps Oklahoma has found something of an identity. I know that's something that everybody had been screaming, about over the first 10 weeks of the season.
Yeah, it really felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do on offense or who they wanted to be. And I think that these last few weeks they've decided we're just going to lean on the running game, simplify some things, and it's worked. You've seen it work in the passing game too. I feel like the RPO stuff has kind of figured itself out. They're more clean on that in terms of when they're handing it off, when they're not. The zone read stuff with Jackson Arnold, I think, has been really good, and even some of the play action stuff, I think can kind of open up some of that stuff. Because the reality is, Eddie, on Saturday when they play LSU, they're going to have to throw the ball at some point.
That was my next point. You can't go 9 for 11 and 68 yards and expect to win in Baton Rouge. It's
a very, very rare circumstance that's going to happen. So Oklahoma has to find a way to push the ball down the field, which is going to be hard considering a lot of their receivers are likely going to be out again.
6 wide receivers, your top 6 wide receivers. Yeah. It's incredible. I got a video of the guys on Saturday standing on the sideline. It's Nick Anderson, Jalil Farouk, Jayden Gibson, Andrell Anthony. They're all there standing in uniform. It's just like, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm biased. I think they probably could have helped a little bit this season.
They could have helped a lot.
Unbelievable. Xavier Robinson, emergence has been a big deal as well. We'll get to that after we hear from Matthew Brune from the Bengal Tiger, talking everything LSU. But before we get to that, it's time to tell you about PrizePicks. And we've been doing this every week. All you got to do is download PrizePicks or go to the website and use the promo code as you see on the screen here. Use Suitor Scoop. Play $5, get $50 instantly. Very easy to navigate on the app. And George, where are we going this week?
I'm going to a little Friday action, OSU, Colorado.
Oh, that's going to make the people real excited.
Well, I think it's going to be a fun game. I mean,
well, I don't know about
probably
that.
But I'm taking Ollie Gordon over 75 and a half rushing yards. I do think that they can find some success in the running game. Ollie's last game as a Cowboy, most likely, I would assume. And then Travis Hunter, over 103 and a half yards receiving.
So a little head-to-head battle there. Yes. I like that. I'm going to go Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdowns. You might even be watching this, and he's probably already gone over 1.5, playing the Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving morning. And then Pat Mahomes on Friday afternoon, taking on the Raiders, a little rivalry game, over 1.5 touchdowns as well. So
I like that.
Going with
Raiders stink.
2 chalk picks there. All you got to do to play along with us is download the PrizePick app and just navigate your way around it. And obviously, $5, get $50 instantly using the promo code SooterScoop. Weird times right now in Baton Rouge, just as weird as they've been around these parts here over the last couple months. But certainly it was a big win for Brian Kelly's crew on last Saturday to get past Vanderbilt. Maybe his job is safe. Maybe it's not if Oklahoma were to go down there and do something similar to what they did to Alabama on Saturday in Norman. But for now, let's learn a little bit more about the LSU Tigers with Matthew Brune from the Bengal Tiger. Now welcoming Matthew Brune from the Bengal Tiger, and obviously some interesting times down in Baton Rouge. Oklahoma coming out of their own, certainly some interesting things that have happened throughout the season. Let's just start here, Matt. Thanks for joining us. What's the general vibe right now around Brian Kelly's program? I know that from the outside looking in, it would seem pretty contentious right now.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting spot. After winning, after going 9-3 and 9-3 in the regular season his first 2 years, and eventually ending with the Bowen as well. So technically, 10 wins was a mark that they had reached the past 2 years. The hope was that this year you could, at the very least, maintain that. If not, take a step forward and get to the playoffs. I think I said that to y'all, when we were going into the season, that was the hope this year, and I think they had enough top end talent to do that with Will Campbell, Harold Perkins, Garrett Nussmeier, and so on. There is tangible top-end talent on this team, but I think as the years gone on, we've seen the holes just be kind of too much to overcome, from the secondary to I think the receiving courts to so on. And so it's been contentious, I think, especially when you consider the Bryce Underwood flip coming in the midst of losing 3 straight games and then losing your biggest commitment. So the win over Vanderbilt this past weekend was significant. It was huge. So that way people didn't start, burning down Tiger Stadium. But that's kind of the pulse of LSU right now.
What just has gone wrong this year for LSU, Matt? Because I remember talking to you, and I was high on LSU too. I thought this was a season that they could maybe compete for an SEC title. Where would you maybe say that this season has gone wrong, or is it just one of those things that, as Oklahoma's learning, the SEC is just really tough to win football games in?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're right. The SEC is incredibly tough. Even you go back to LSU's wins over South Carolina, which was very, very tight. The win over Ole Miss, which was in overtime, which was arguably they should have lost that game. And then you have their actual losses to this point, which have come in games where they've led at the end of the third quarter in 3 of their 4 losses. Alabama was the only one they really got blown out in. And so you look at the margins that this team is playing in so many close games. It's hard to consistently, win those games in the SEC, especially on the road. You have the game like Florida, which was obviously the biggest letdown to this point. But I think just overall that the top end talent is still there, but like I said, I just think there are too many holes, and I don't think they were effective enough in the transfer portal this offseason to really fill those holes. Maybe we thought that they did, maybe at like the safety position or defensive line, but they weren't quite there. The defense has gotten better than it was last year. Last year was horrid, but I think the offense's regression has been the biggest surprise for us. And we knew, losing Jayden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, all that was going to come with some regression, but an offensive line that was a Joe Moore Award finalist last year seems like it has taken a step back, and part of that's inexperience, injuries, whatnot, but still, the offensive line regressing and then the receiving core not taking that step forward, I think has been huge because the offense to this point throughout the year has just been really pedestrian.
That kind of leads into my next question, just in terms of Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, when you're replacing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, you got some big shoes to fill. What has Garrett Nussmeier's season been like, the ups and the downs? And then obviously just from a skill positions standpoint, where's LSU at going into the final week of the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I've maintained that Garrett Nussmeier is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. I still believe that, even though he had a couple of rough games. The A&M second half was brutal. He had 3 interceptions. The Alabama game was tough on him. But I think in the Florida and especially the Vanderbilt game this past week, he was excellent. And so you have him now coming in. I think he is a product of the offensive line struggling at times and then playing better against Vanderbilt. When he has some time, he has the arm talent that puts him in those like NFL draft conversations, but he's not the most athletic. He's still processing the game, trying to figure out the speed of the game as his first year as a starting quarterback. So you buy the arm talent, and then you think on the other hand, he still would like him to come back and really polish his game for the next level. And then at the receiving core, like I said, you go from 2 first-round receivers to some guys who needed to prove themselves. And I think Kyron Lacey's been good, not great. CJ Daniel's been good, not great. And then, Aaron Anderson has been kind of the surprise, has been really good as well. So you have a good receiving core. And then you also have Mason Taylor at tight end, but it's not, the elite level that I think LSU fans are used to this point. LSU's been able to pump out some very, very good receivers recently, and they just don't have that this year. They don't have the guys that could take a top off of defense, can win the one-on-one balls. So it's a lot of manufacturing yards through the air.
Matt, on the other side of the ball, you mentioned it earlier about the defense. They were one of the worst in the country a year ago. It was kind of their downfall in a lot of games. This year they've shown some improvement. They've still not been maybe one of the best, but where have they improved the most, and where is that defense right now at the end of the season? It feels like they're playing some of their best football right now.
Yeah, the Vanderbilt game was really encouraging because we know Vanderbilt is an offense that can really get you if you're not disciplined. We saw what they did to Alabama. We've seen what they've done in certain games this year where they run a lot of read option, triple option type stuff that if you're not disciplined or physical, that they can really get you. And LSU did a great job in that game. Really, they held Vanderbilt to 7 points through 3.5 quarters. And I was really impressed by the overall attention to detail coming off 3 straight losses. It is a fair question to say, how are they going to approach that game? And they did a great job, I think, defensively. So it's been interesting to see them kind of mix and match and try to figure out which players they like in the mix here and in the rotation. But their front seven's been better than I think we expected going in. The defensive tackle position in particular was a major concern coming into the year, and I think they've, for the most part, solidified that. And then they have a Braden Swinson off the edge and Savion Jones off the edge, who have been very good for them. So the front seven's been solid. It's really the back end that has given them a lot of trouble this year.
What's the special teams unit been like for LSU this season?
It's been hit or miss. I think Xavier Thomas at punt return and kick return always gives you that big playability. They got him from Mississippi State, who he was an All-American as a return man as a freshman there. He ends up coming to LSU. So you have a good return man, but the long snapping, the field goal snapping, there's been a problem. You could argue it lost them the game really in the first half against A&M. They missed a couple. They've just really been inconsistent as a field goal unit, not the kicker in particular, but just like the snap, the hold, all that stuff. And then the punter, I would argue they have maybe one of the worst punting situations in the SEC at this point, just from what I've seen. They really struggle to pin people deep and win the field position battle, which puts them in tough positions. I think the first 2 punts against Vanderbilt went for like 38 and 33 yards, and it's like you just can't really have that. You want to be more play more of the field position game, and they've struggled in that regard as well. So it's hit or miss at this point.
Sure.
Matt, I know one thing that Brent Venables talked about this week is just going on the road to Death Valley. And we hear it all the time. We've never been there. I know Brent has never been there. A lot of these players have never played in an environment like this. Can you just kind of explain what it's like going into this stadium and also what you expect the atmosphere to be like? Because I know this past week, a lot of people here in Norman thought that maybe the atmosphere wouldn't be great because Oklahoma hasn't had a great season. That was not the case. It was an awesome atmosphere, one of the best we've seen here in a long time. I'm assuming despite the season maybe not going as well as people had hoped at LSU, I would still assume that the crowd is going to be spectacular come Saturday night.
Yeah, it was really good, especially in the first half of the Vanderbilt game. LSU got up 2 touchdowns, and it was also was a little chilly. You know how we are in the South. It's like once it drops under like 60, people are like, no, we're out. But no, in the first half especially, it was, yeah, I mean, it was probably 90,000 people in there still, a ton of people and a really good environment there. If LSU fans show up at entire stadium, which I do expect them to, it is, one of the best environments in college football. The Ole Miss game this year in particular was like special. It was probably even better than the Alabama game 2 years ago. It was unreal, really, to have that kind of environment. And then LSU fans got themselves back up for the Alabama game, which was at home. And going into that game, I said that's the loudest I heard it before kickoff at any point. And then Alabama just came and just drubbed them. So, it drowned it out really quickly. So, yeah, for any, Oklahoma fans going, if this is full strength Tiger Stadium, it is definitely a special environment and something that, LSU prides itself in not losing. And playing on the road in the SEC anywhere, it doesn't matter if you're at Vanderbilt or Auburn, wherever. It's tough to win on the road. So that is the saving grace, I think, for LSU, is to have these last 2 games, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, at home, even though they weren't playing well or aren't playing as well as they want to.
You mentioned how pivotal that win over Vanderbilt was a week ago to snap the 3-game losing streak. Are they out of the territory of, is Brian Kelly coaching for his job type of situation going into the final week of the regular season?
Yeah, I think we're out of that.
Okay.
I don't know how realistic that was. Now, obviously, any SEC fan base, when a coach loses 3 straight games, it's immediately hot seat. It's who's our next head coach. Yeah, so that's kind of the territory that just comes with being an SEC football coach. But ultimately, LSU, I don't even think could fire him if they wanted to at this point. He is still over $60 million in a buyout. Like that, it's one of those contracts where you're not gonna be able to fire him, I don't think, till at earliest, I would think like 2027. I think he has a few years. And I mean, ultimately, if they can win the Oklahoma game and if they can win a bowl game, you still go 9-4.
Sure.
So you go 10-3, 10-3, 9-4. Not where LSU wants to be, but it's still not a drop off to where you're not making a bowl game. It's still good enough, I think, to where you can't Jimbo Fisher him and pay all that money and just get him to leave. So I think they're fine right now. Year 3, and they do have a good recruiting class coming in even without Bryce Underwood. So we'll see. I will say there is more pressure going to next year now than there would be if they had just gone 9-3 or 10-2, and but he's all right now.
One last one for me, Matt. Just a lot of Oklahoma fans I know are making the trip. My dad and brother are driving down for the game. Where are some must-see places, some stops that OU fans have to make if they're coming into town?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. I think the first thing is, in general, the tailgating scene. And I know Oklahoma's great tailgating, and every SEC school is great tailgating. And you can, honestly, even if you're wearing Oklahoma shirt, LSU fans will, in general, give you, help you out, give you some gumbo and all that stuff. And, it'll be fun. Secondly, I think just food places around LSU, I think there are a dime a dozen. I mean, you have a Mike Anderson's, which is very popular. You have a Chimes, which is very popular. You have a lot of food places. You could throw a rock and hit 3 of them. So I think you're in a good spot food wise. I would still say get there early, even if it's not, and it's not the tailgating scene that LSU had for Alabama. It's still going to be vibrant. It goes for, a mile any direction. So I think you're in a good spot, and get some good food, get some gumbo, if it's cold, definitely get some something to warm you up and visit with some LSU fans.
I'm excited. I just want to hear Neck on repeat if the band can do that for me on Saturday night.
So what happens now, since they're not allowed to play Neck, the band isn't. The student section will change the band will play a certain song. It's right above it. They'll play the right above it tune, and the student section will improvise. That'll be their cue to improvise Neck.
That's great.
In whatever quarter it is. So
I love that.
Yeah, that's how that goes now.
Well, that'll be the highlight of my night. Besides the football game, obviously going to be headed up to look into the stands. He is Matthew Brune with the Bengal Tiger, catching up on everything LSU as Oklahoma heads down to Tiger Stadium on Saturday night. Matt, we appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. Look forward to seeing y'all too.
Thanks, Matt. Really good stuff there with Matt. It's going to be, I really don't know what to expect. I do think, though, that you listen to Matt talking the way that LSU fans are talking about their program, it might be a battle of just the survival of the fittest, if you will, on Saturday night.
It feels like if OU can jump out to an early lead,
get a little bit of doubt, a little seeded doubt in the back of those minds, get the people to start yelling at Brian Kelly.
Correct. I think that they start taking it out on their own team instead of Oklahoma. So you never know. I'm all I know is I'm really excited about the trip. Growing up a college football fan, you've always heard about LSU and just the environment there. I know that they're, kind of not had the season that maybe they wanted, but I do anticipate it being an awesome, awesome atmosphere. And I think it's going to be really fun to see it. And also, I just think, Eddie, these two teams, to me, feel kind of very similar in a lot of ways. And I think that they're pretty even in some ways. I know LSU's what, a 5.5 point favorite?
5.5, 6.5, somewhere in
there. I think it's going to be a one-score game. I think it's going to be a fourth quarter type of game, and I could see the regular season really ending with a bang in terms of just kind of a crazy game.
That would be one way to end this season. I think with the ending for this season should be kind of crazy, right? With as crazy and as zany as it's been all year. It is the best time of the year. Obviously, you're finishing up, maybe going back in to get some more helping Thanksgiving dinner or late night dinner, wherever you may be.
We eat it at lunch.
Are you guys a lunch family?
Yeah.
Interesting. I think we're 1:15 tea time or something like that.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, because then you have a little bit of room on the back end to dig back in on Thursday night.
That's what we like. We like the cold turkey sandwiches at night.
Just bring some for the drive on Friday morning.
I probably will.
We probably need to. Let us tell you about GameTime. Obviously, it's one of the ways or it's the only way that we get tickets around here, whether it be Thunder games, OU basketball games coming up. Actually, Oklahoma playing Bedlam basketball at the Paycom Center coming up on December 14th. All you got to do, though, is download, just go to gametime.co or download the app. Create an account and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And again, it's very, very easy. Create an account, redeem with the code ON3 for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And that you can drive down to Baton Rouge, get in the car, maybe get out. I'm sure there's some of you that have to put up with a mother-in-law out there, and you want to get out of the house, $46. You could be in the Tiger Stadium on Saturday night alongside George and I.
I've heard that there's not a bad seat there, so and I'm sure that I'm guessing we have a lot of viewers over in Houston. Probably a short drive that they could just hop in the car and go over there. But
I think my parents will be doing that with my sister on Saturday.
I mean, it's perfect. Even down low, look at that. What is that? $299 at the 50-yard line down low. That's not a bad deal. So you definitely hop on there, and that's what I love about the GameTime app. You can go and see exactly where the seats are and what your view is going to be.
Just download the GameTime app. Again, use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I think if there's been a theme here over the last couple weeks, it's certainly been the emergence of a number of freshmen. And there was a number of freshmen that played basically throughout the season, whether it be an Eli Bowen or Jayden Jackson, obviously making the first start all the way back when at the end of August. It feels like years ago now, but you are starting to see some more of these guys, and you can really kind of start working on a list of all these freshmen that have started to play.
It's awesome to see, and it felt so cool to see those guys on Saturday. It felt like all these freshmen are just stepping up, whether it's Eli Bowen's interception, Xavier Robinson, the way that he played, Jayden Jackson, who, he's not going to show up in the stat box every week, but he has been maybe their best defensive tackle all season.
I know Cole Kubelik, he does a bunch of stuff. He'll be on the call on Saturday night. Said that basically he's been not just one of the best freshman defensive tackles, but one of the best defensive tackles in the country this season.
He's been awesome. On the offensive side too, they're not true freshmen, but we mentioned Logan Hallen and Heath Ozida earlier.
Sure.
Like redshirt freshmen, guys that haven't played a ton of football.
Pierre-Louis in the final possession of the second or the first half.
You've got all these guys, and so that's why it's like, I know the season hasn't gone the way that Oklahoma wanted it to, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, the guys that they're recruiting, and not just on Saturday, but the Michael Boganowskis of the world, Jayden Hardy, Reggie Powers.
I would even throw in somebody like a Zion Kearney,
or
Zion Raggins, that haven't necessarily seen their stat totals increase because of pass catches, and maybe that's because of opportunity. But I would think just the experience of playing, it's going to be a good thing in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think all those guys, coming back next year, just imagine how much better they're going to be a year from now. And, I think leading the way right now, because of the big plays he's made, is Eli Bowen. That, to me, he's just been – and that, at that position, Eddie, at corner, that's so difficult to have that mindset, to be able to do the things that he's done, make big plays, be such a physical tackler, even though he's not maybe the biggest guy out there. I know Brent talked about that a little bit today, but I've just been so impressed by his play on the field, because you just don't expect that from a true freshman to come in and play corner. I mean, when's the last true freshman to come in and play that? Jordan Thomas, maybe?
Sure.
And obviously his career didn't end up being that great, but I think Eli has shown so many different great qualities that you feel like he's going to be a superstar.
No doubt about it. Here is a little bit more on the freshman phenom that is cornerback Eli Bowen, as well as George asking a question of Jayden Jackson.
Eli has played really well, and he's passed all the tests, if you will, thus far. And we've bragged on him a lot, I know, so I don't want to be too redundant, but he probably is more of the prototype, to believe it or not. You look at the NFL, most of them, the average is under 6 feet, and shoot, who wouldn't want big long creatures outside that can cover really well? But for whatever reason, the averages are under 6 foot in the NFL, the best ones, and that's not to say there aren't some great ones that are really big, and we'll take them out whatever size they come in. And I'm just very honest, but he plays big, as we have talked about, but he's just a very patient player. He's a very skilled player. He understands the game. Within the game, he understands situational football. A lot of young guys, a lot of old guys, they lose themselves. They forgot that last down was 2nd and 10 and it was an incomplete. Now it's 3rd and 10, and they want to press, like it's 3rd and 3 and it's 3rd and 10. So maybe you want to give a little cushion and make the quarterback hold the ball a little longer, because the route, detail is going to be a little bit longer. So you don't want to if you get beat early, it's a wrap. And so he has a lot of maturity from a situational standpoint, knowing when you get into the red zone how to play. Coverage is different than when you're, the offense is coming off their own goal line. And so we've bragged on that part. That, to me, is a piece that helps separate him from a lot of young players. His ability to take what you do in practice and take it to the game day, and the situational, how that affects your coverage and things of that nature. But he's got good natural instincts and a really good natural skill set, and he was well coached in high school systematically there at Denton Guyer. So he came in prepared. The system that he was exposed to in high school and the level of play helped him transition rather quickly.
A lot, he's a freshman, but everybody see he don't play like it. But we asked a lot from him, to travel and run wherever number 2 on the other team went, and he did it without hesitation. He's a guy who takes great notes in the meeting room. He's always attentive, locked in, always ready to roll. So it's not a surprise by any means to me or really any of us in the locker room, but I'm very excited for him, and it's just a guy who's just, he's just reaping what he's sowing.
You look out there, and on both sides of the ball, there's a lot of true freshmen playing on this football team. Can you just talk about how bright the future is with some of you young guys and how much playing time you guys have gotten this year?
I feel like it's going to be, the sky's the limit. Like you just said it yourself. There's a bunch of freshmen out there gaining experience. Playing at the highest level. So imagine what they're going to do, in year 3 or year 4 that they're here. So I feel like, we're building upon right now.
Did you feel like you saw that coming with that recruiting class, how good you guys thought you guys could be?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Some of the guys, they're more mature than, your typical freshman coming in. And I saw that. The coaches saw it. So, yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit more about the freshmen. We talked about them on Tuesday, but I can't remember a true freshman coming in and making an impact this late in the season like a Xavier Robinson has. And he had his first carry just 3 games ago. You look up this week, he's heading down into the final game of the regular season as the reigning SEC Freshman of the Week for his performance against Alabama. Basically, career highs in carries, career highs in yards, career high touchdown, and the 2 touchdowns, the 1 yard and the 18-yarder. Incredible just emergence and explosion from somebody that, I'll be honest, didn't see this coming at all.
I mean, I don't think any of us saw him really contributing much at all this season.
Right.
He's a guy that I think we all thought highly of coming out of Carl Albert High School. We knew what he did and the production he had, but we had heard that he was struggling in the spring. The summer workouts was a big part of his development and growth. And even in the fall, he wasn't really a part of the plan.
No.
In fall camp. And I think Danny Stutsman told you guys on the radio this week that he was struggling with fumbling and all of these things that you're like, okay, so he's never going to see the field. But
I mean, he was literally running on the scout team
a
month ago.
It's crazy. So I think it speaks to the work that he's been doing behind the scenes. I think that he's been working really hard with Schmitty in the weight room, making sure he had his body right. And then I think it was also just a matter of guys got hurt. Opportunities came open. The offense obviously needed a spark, and they turned to a guy who, I don't know what he's listed at right now. I'm guessing he's around 220, and has kind of this surprising speed with that weight. And he comes in and plays extremely well. Hasn't put the ball on the ground, which has been an issue in this offense this year for a guy like Taylor Tatum, especially. Javonte Barnes gets hurt. Gavin Sawchuk gets hurt. Caleb Hicks is nowhere to be found. Sam Franklin hasn't been much of an impact player this year. So, he got his opportunity and he's been spectacular. I think it's kind of shocking, to be honest, when you think about, where he was just a few months ago to where he is now in terms of he's heading into next year, Eddie. He's like their best player on offense. That's crazy.
It's insane. And certainly, I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for some of these local products.
Yeah,
obviously,
awesome.
Just up the road from Midwest City and played at Carl Albert, won multiple state championships up there. So Xavier did talk to the media on Tuesday night, as well as a little bit more with Jayden Jackson.
He's a selfless guy, Same thing in the running back room. We had some guys go down. When your name is called on, are you ready for the call? And he's ready for the call, And it's not just something that's out of nowhere, I've practiced with him, so you see like these people grow. I feel like sometimes people pop off and some people don't expect it, but it's hard work. They put in work every day. I'm proud of these guys. Like, we work hard every day, no matter the outcome of the game. We come in next day ready to attack the week, and it just shows on the field.
I mean, that's all a great feeling, that day, being able to celebrate that day. But going on to the next day, try not to get complacent about the rewards or anything that happened that day. But all I know, it's just a great feeling. That's something that can get put on my my resume. But that's it.
I know when we spoke to you last week, you said, the decision to not redshirt, you had to think about it for a couple days. Does a game like that one on Saturday make it worth it?
Risking my red shirt. I had no other choice but go out there and really go out there and ball out and really give myself a chance, some value to my name, and help out these seniors.
Running backs often want to be aggressive, especially young running backs. But can you talk about your running style, playing with pace, being patient, waiting for things to develop? Can you talk about your style and how you are a patient runner?
For me, at the beginning, I had a hard time getting into the installs and getting the plays down. But, once you get those plays down, for me, it was really understanding the scheme, how everybody's blocking everything up front, what the wide receivers are doing. Once you're doing that, you get to know what's going on, and that's where you can go out there and get comfortable and start doing your own thing.
Man, if I could have went back, man, I should have, I think I was playing, a little bit shaky here and there. I was playing not to fail, and I think that kind of hinged me a little bit at the beginning of the season. But now, I trust the coaches and what I'm doing, so I feel like I'm very prepared now.
Were there moments throughout the season that it was like you made a play and it kind of opened a gate for you and it's like, I just need to do this or do that?
I'll definitely say Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think it was the first play I went in. I just kind of it kind of got me hype.
Sure.
And it was just like, wow, I should have been doing this. So, yeah.
He's going to be a stud.
It's pretpretty incredible just how consistent he's been week in and week out. Really has never met that freshman wall that you hear so often, talked about, whether it be football or basketball, but any sport at the collegiate level. You usually have a freshman, he kind of runs into a situation where it's like, I've peaked or I've maxed out. Certainly could end up being one of those guys that ends up being somebody that is in that national award type conversation by the time he gets done with his career at Oklahoma.
And the one that started to play a little bit more, and he's played a little bit this season, and obviously his role is going to increase next year, is David Stone.
Sure.
And, all we've heard from behind the scenes is that he's getting better every single day at practice. He's living in the film room. So you get him and Jayden Jackson back next year. Maybe you get Dominic Williams, who is trying to decide if he'll come back next year. Grayson Halton. It's a pretty good little foursome that you've got coming back on the interior defensive line. And then you maybe go out and you get another guy in the portal or something. You bring in Trent Wilson in this recruiting class. Who knows? I feel like you feel really good, though, about that group. And Jayden has just been – it's crazy to think that this is only his first year playing college football, and he's this good.
It's wild. Come Saturday night, Tiger Stadium will become the 5th largest city in the state of Louisiana.
Wow.
Over 100,000 expected, or they can seat 100,000. Who knows if, they're going to be full mass. I would imagine it's going to be a great atmosphere. We've been lucky enough to go to a number of places, whether it be Notre Dame or Tallahassee, Ohio State, Tennessee. Been to a lot of really big time, venues. Looking forward to this one.
You listed some of them. I've never been to some of those that you mentioned. I would be curious to hear what the best atmosphere that you've been to. I know for me, obviously the Cotton Bowl ranks up there, but in terms of just road atmospheres, I think Auburn this year was awesome.
Cool.
I thinking back to the Big 12 days, K-State was always a really tough place to play, but I haven't been to some of those cool venues.
We'll be headed out to Neyland next year for the Tennessee experience. That's pretty high up on the
big
list.
house in a couple years.
Big house up in Michigan. Go to the Link next year to play Temple.
Yeah.
I don't know if that does anything for anybody. I don't think so. But am looking forward to Saturday night. On Tuesday, I guess Brent Venables has a little bit of a unique experience. He has coached at Death Valley before. Obviously, that's the one in Clemson, South Carolina. He was asked on Tuesday, what is the truth, Death Valley?
Yeah. Let me just look at these stats here. The one that we're going into this week, again, 14-1 in home night games since Coach Kelly's been there in 3 years. They're 18-2 overall, 18-2 overall at home. Listen, I've heard from every coach that I love and respect that's been in all the biggest venues, the best of the best, and everybody points to Death Valley, Baton Rouge, night game. Hope that your team doesn't have to be scheduled because that's the toughest challenge there is in college football. So I know we're going to get the best out of the LSU faithful. But it's something that you're really looking forward to as well. You love a challenge, and you know that's going to be a real thing. But you tell your players, again that external factors don't win. Execution, physicality, effort, do the things that we can control. So, but something that I'm looking forward to.
But no, just bouncing off questions. I've heard about Death Valley. I've heard it's going to be probably the best stadium I'll ever walk into. I've never been there, but I'm just looking forward to it. Really, it's always fun when you have the opposing team cheering loud and being in that type of environment. It's really just you accomplishing a dream from a little kid, just growing up wanting to play places like that.
I think the key is just focusing on the basic stuff. Ignoring the crowd and focusing on LSU. LSU has a great team, great defense. We have to be, at the top of our game, to be able to win this game, just like every other game, So, it's really just ignoring the outside noise and focusing on the task at hand.
Hearing Fabeshi talk about just offensive line stuff in general, it seems thinking back to Saturday night, they didn't have any procedure calls.
No.
And getting behind the sticks.
They've
and
been
I think
really good about that lately.
That's been when you're talking about an offense that every little thing matters, right? Getting behind the sticks, and particularly on a Saturday night on the road, something you got to stay away from.
I think they only had 4 penalties total for 20 yards against Alabama.
And I think 3 of those were offsides, and then they had the defensive delay of game.
So none on offense, which is crazy. And what did we talk about earlier in the season? Getting behind the sticks. You can't get off schedule. Brent talked about that at his press conference on Tuesday. So for this Oklahoma team going into a place that is going to be loud as hell, the communication has to be key. You have to be able to know what's the snap count on, watch the football, all of those things, make sure that you don't have illegal shifts or whatever it is. I think all of those things are going to be super important, and they become magnified when you play on the road, especially a place like LSU.
And in a game that is expected to be pretty tight once you get to the fourth quarter. So there it is. Game day preview. Hope everybody out there has had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully you haven't lost too much money on bets, whether it be football or maybe even a little bit of feast week, right? We've been watching that around the office. But looking forward to Saturday night, 6 o'clock, the final regular season game. Oklahoma, of course, has another game on the schedule at some point. We don't know where they'll go bowling.
Maybe playoff.
Probably, maybe. It would take massive amount of tragedy, and I hope that you don't put that on anybody else. Yeah. But Sunday, will we have a pretty good idea where they're going bowling?
I think so. Isn't that the selection?
Is
Sunday?
That the show? Yeah,
I believe so.
We'll be in a car.
But I think it'll be. Don't they do the playoff first, and then you have to wait like 2 hours?
Yeah, the playoff stuff it's early. It's at like noon, I want to say, or maybe even 11 a.m. on Sunday.
And then they wait and they announce the bowls like a couple hours later. So
certainly going to be an interesting next couple weeks. Obviously, the basketball things with Jayden Baranchek and Porter Moser has kind of started to heat up. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about conference games. The Hoops Report with Bob Przybylo coming back here to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, and then obviously we'll be keeping an eye on everything that's happening with the OC search that maybe culminates here with the transfer portal opening on December 9th, which is just next couple weeks away from us. So there it is. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.